Hi there, I'm James LaVeck, and welcome back to the Life After Losses video blog. This is entry 224, Receiving Life Differently. Now this week I've been reflecting on how loss reshapes not just what we experience, but how we experience it. And sometimes we go through something, whether it's physical, emotional, or relational, and we realize that what once came naturally now feels unfamiliar. That doesn't mean it's wrong, it just means it's different. In today's post, I'm talking about what it means to adapt, to receive life in new ways, to open up to possibilities that don't mirror the past, and to find meaning and connection even when things look nothing like they used to. So let's explore what it looks like to heal. Not by going backward, but by honoring what's still possible. This week, I had cochlear implant surgery following progressive hearing loss over the last several years in my left ear. And as so many things in my life do, it got me thinking about different kinds of losses. I got the surgery with the hope that I'd be able to hear again. Not the same way, because the natural way is gone, but in a new way. A way that still feels natural, but is fundamentally different. And that reminded me of something else. After my first spouse died, I wasn't sure I'd ever love again. In fact, I was convinced I wasn't going to. It felt impossible to imagine, because the love that we had was singular. It was its own language, its own rhythm. And when it was gone, it was not just the person I'd lost, it was the way I experienced love with them. That version of love didn't come back. But I did find love again, and though it wasn't the same, it was still real, still meaningful, still full of joy and connection. It was a reminder that while we may not get things back the way they once were, we can still find meaning, connection, and joy in new forms they take. Loss changes things, and sometimes the harder part is not just losing something, but learning to receive it in a new form. Losing my natural hearing was disorienting. It was frustrating. It came with grief, especially because it was so gradual. I kept adapting to a new normal every few months, and with each adjustment, I had to grieve what was no longer working and what was no longer possible. And sometimes I could hear just fine. Sometimes I couldn't hear anything at all on my left side. Sometimes the imbalance caused headaches, exhaustion, and vertigo. And sometimes it made social situations incredibly isolating, not being able to understand what others were saying. I looked fine, but I was constantly missing half of the conversation. And that's the thing about invisible losses. They're hard to explain and even harder to validate. Grief isn't always about absence. Sometimes it's about the shape of things changing. Choosing surgery wasn't about getting back to what I lost. It was about giving myself the chance to engage again, to reconnect with sound, with people, with experiences I didn't even realize I was slowly withdrawing from. Now, I know I can't go back, but I can move forward in a new way, with new tools, new understanding, and a new sense of self. The same is true for emotional healing. We don't go back to where we were. We don't get the same love. We don't get the same innocence, the same connection, but we can get something new that's just as valid, sometimes even more layered, more intentional, more aware. I used to think healing meant returning to a previous version of myself, about having things back the way they were, but I've learned that healing is about learning to live fully with the version of me that remains. It's okay to miss what once was. I miss the clarity of sound. I miss the effortless way I used to follow conversations in a crowded room. And yes, I still miss the love I had with my first spouse. None of that disappears just because something new begins. But I also know this. Making space for something different doesn't mean we're erasing what came before. It means we're adapting, evolving, growing. I'm still healing. The implant hasn't been activated yet, and there's still a lot I don't know about how it will work or what it will sound like. And yeah, there's some anxiety, but there's also hope. Hope that even if I can't go back, I can still move forward. Hope that even if the experience is different, it can still be good. Hope that even the unfamiliar can become something I learn to trust. Every day I hold space for both. The grief of what's gone and the possibility of what's ahead. This implant is just one more instance. And maybe that's what resilience really is. Not pretending we're fine, rushing to replace what we've lost, or standing resolute despite what life has thrown at us, but learning to make room for joy, even when it looks different than before. It's been 11 years since I lost my second spouse, and Only recently have I begun to truly believe that I might actually be able to find love again. I opened to the possibility a few years ago, but I don't think I really believed it until recently. Now, if you've ever found yourself in a season of rebuilding, of adjusting, of reimagining life after a loss, whether physical, emotional, or relational, know that you're not alone. There's no perfect version of healing. There's just the courage to keep choosing what's next, even when it looks like nothing that came before. So let's talk. Have you ever had to learn to receive something differently after a loss? What helped you stay open to the possibility of something new? I'd love to hear in the comments. Thanks for watching.